Hey there, this is Cindy Rae. It's day 9 of the Finding Your Creative Bones devotional word of the day. Today, I am going to letter the word compassion, and it's a relationship to scripture in Mark 3:31 through 35, where Jesus is talking to those who are sitting around the table with him about family and asking the disciples if they considered all the people that were about their brother, sister, mother. He said, the scripture says, and his mother and brothers came and were outside and sent for him, requesting to see him. And a great number were seated around him. And they said to him, see, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you? And he said in answer, who are my mother and my brothers? And looking around at those who were seated about him, he said, see my mother and my brothers? Whoever does God's pleasure, the same is my brother and sister and mother. And again, that's from Mark 3:31 through 35. And this particular scripture came out of the Bible in Basic English. So, do we, do you treat others with compassion? That is what we would show our mothers, brothers, our sisters. It's a big question to think about. How do we show compassion? How do we show it to the people around us? Today, I just wrote in script the word, and I'm going to do a little decorating with stickles, basically glitter glue. I really love that bright color. These are another supply I've had quite some time and never really properly used. You can tell the bottle is basically new. This may or may not work. Let me see if I can get it to. It's very thick, so may not be able to get it down far enough to. It's funny. I can tell it's still loose enough to work, but it's thick enough that it doesn't want to move. So I'll probably have to work on it a little while to get it to work. So we'll put that one aside. And we'll go back to this bright yellow. I love how these look when they dry. I don't know what kind of flower that represents, but it's different. It is an interesting question about, do we treat strangers we meet as families, as our brothers and sisters? Would we even consider doing that in on most occasions? I don't know. I know that I'm trying to be much more aware that's how I should be. But to be honest, I'm not sure I always succeed at that because unfortunately, we tend to, or I can't speak for anybody else. I can tend to form some kind of judgment, even though I know I shouldn't, unfortunately, in nature or in my nature anyway, to do that. And then I start trying to kick that judgment out of my head and resolve myself of it because I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I didn't like it when I was younger. I had discussions with my mother about that and tried to encourage her to think differently. My mother was a very good person. I cannot say enough good about how well she treated my sister and I and how hard she worked to raise us well. But like a lot of people of that age, there were influences that affected her thoughts about others. And I remember having many discussions with her about what was right or wrong about some of that. And they were good discussions, and I'm glad we had them. And it gave me an opportunity to begin to think of my free mind and use it in a way that was probably more along the lines of what God would have expected and what Jesus encouraged us to do. So I'm thankful that my mother gave me the opportunities to be able to do that. And she showed, in most occasions, particularly toward her family and her daughters of my dad, she showed a lot of compassion to us. So I did have a good example to teach me what that was about, being compassionate. So I thank her for that. And may God be keeping her safe and sound in heaven until I can see her again, because my mother was probably my greatest hero in my life. My dad was awesome too in so many ways, but my mom was really special. So anyway, it's a day for us to think about, what does compassion mean? What was Jesus saying when he encouraged us to think of others that were following him as our brothers and sisters and mothers? If you get a chance, give it some thought. Think about what compassion means to you, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'd be very happy to hear from you about it. And also subscribe to the channel if you will. Thanks. Take care. God bless. I'll see you soon.